Hi, welcome to the second video in my Greg Talks series. Today I'm going to be talking about whether or not I think it's a good idea to learn to read music. Although I'm a bass player, this video is relevant to any musician considering whether or not to read music. Recently I put a few posts out on Facebook and Bass Chat to find out how you all felt about reading music. The overwhelming response, which surprised me to be honest, was from established players who wished that they'd learnt to read music when they learnt their instrument. One poster said, "I've played for 32 years, professionally for many years, and am currently playing around 100 gigs a year. To find someone to help me just read music has been really hard, to the point of just giving up." Another one said, "The difficulty comes when you try to learn how to read music after playing bass for a period of time. You're trying to impose a framework onto something that you've already learnt. It's difficult, but not impossible." Another poster said, "I used to be able to read treble clef. I am okay getting the pitch right, but reading rhythms eludes me. Bass clef is still a mystery to me." And another said, "I've tried to learn reading music many times and it always ends in frustration." So these are just a few replies that I received, but it gave me an insight into just how many musicians there are out there that can play their instrument but can't read music and really want to. So to tell my story, originally I learned how to read music by playing the piano from the age of 4, and then I moved on to trumpet when I went to school. So I also learnt music theory at the same time because you had to do your theory exams to take your practical exams. And by the time I picked up bass at age 14, I already had a really good grounding in music. I learnt the bass by ear initially, and I really learnt my trade by playing in different bands and playing different gigs for a few years. Then a jazz gig came up in France where I'd be required to read music. So I had to get this together in a couple of weeks, which I did do, but I'd used my previous knowledge from the left hand of the piano. Obviously you read in bass clef for the left hand. So this brings me to a question I often hear being asked. Is it better to play by ear or to read music? Now it's obvious to me that both skills are as important as each other. There are certain situations obviously where one skill might come more in handy than the other. For example, if you're a classical musician, then generally reading music is what you'll be required to do. But if you're at a jam night, then you'd be required to play by ear. I often hear people saying that if you learn to read music, then this will take away from your ability to play by ear. As if somehow reading music, because it's an academic process, that will interfere with your ability to play properly. Just last week I had a message from someone asking for my advice. They could play bass to a certain standard and they were considering whether to read music, and they were getting conflicting advice. So they actually said, "I've been told that I need to play completely by ear before I study music." Now why would this be true? Well, clearly to me it isn't true. I look at reading music and playing by ear as a sort of yin and yang of music. They complement each other. So where does the ability to read music come in handy? Well, I'll list some situations that I'd say it'd actually be crucial to be able to read music. First of all, if you're going into a recording session cold and you haven't heard the material first. Next, if you're at rehearsal or gig and someone just gives you some music straight away, and you're really going to need to be able to read to do that. And thirdly, if you want to learn a lot of material quickly, reading music really helps with that. A fellow bass player said to me recently, "Reading music is so important. It helps me to do things like walk into a gig or practice and sight read songs almost perfectly after only one shot of the song." And that sums up how I feel about it. Now some of you would be watching this and thinking, well, I'm never going to be in those situations. And if that's true, and if you have plenty of time to learn the material beforehand, before a gig or a rehearsal, then really it isn't necessary for you to read music. I get that some players just want to have fun on their instrument and they're not really bothered about reading music, and that's perfectly valid to me. And in this situation, a bit of tab might come in handy just to help you to work out certain songs. But if you want to progress past a certain point on your instrument and you really want to take it seriously, then reading music is only going to help you with this and enhance your playing ability. But if you started reading music and didn't do any more ear training, then obviously that would affect your playing by ear ability, so you have to maintain both skills. There are famous musicians out there who we all know that don't read music, and often they're used as an argument as to why we shouldn't learn or why we don't need to learn to read music. But these are some very unique and talented players, and unfortunately most of us don't possess their rare talents. So is it too late to start reading music if you've been playing for a considerable amount of time? Well, of course it's not. I can't stress enough how easy it is to learn to read music while you're learning your instrument. I've taught countless pupils how to read on the piano, trumpet and bass, I've got to say that they all find it easy if they learn to read from the beginning. You just don't really think about it that much if you're learning where the notes are at the same time. But that said, if you're in a position where you already play your instrument to a certain standard, it's never too late to start reading music. It can be frustrating at first, and this type of student I've taught can tell me it makes them feel like a beginner again when they start. But once you get over that initial hurdle of starting to read music, then it gets a lot easier. I think the difficulty really is finding a book or a course or an instructor that helps you to learn to read music when you're not a beginner. So for those of you thinking about starting to read music, don't be put off by those of you that will say it will affect your playing in a negative way. Just go for it. You'll be richly rewarded in the long run. It will open up lots more areas of your playing and your gigging possibilities. I'm currently working on my first bass course for Greg's Bass Shed, and that will be ready at the end of this year, 2019. The course will cover this very topic, how to read music for the player who can already play. Because I think this is really important to a lot of players. If you think this sort of course is for you, then you can express an interest on my website, gregsbassshed.com. Go to the products page and leave your email address, and I'll keep you in the loop about this course and when it's ready. I'll put the link in the description below this video as well. I've also got a free PDF that comes with this lesson, and this will get you started reading music. It will tell you where the notes are, it will give you a start about rhythm, and it will tell you about key signatures and time signatures. So this is a really useful resource if you're thinking about learning to read music. You can download this free PDF by clicking the link below this video on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this video and about your experiences with reading music, or if you'd like to read music. You can leave a comment below the video. Please like and share this video, that really helps me out, and you can subscribe to me here on YouTube. This is Greg from Greg's Bass Shed. See you in the next video.